Ladies and gentlemen, Scots and Ramonas, Chewies and Chewettes, welcome to this new little thing I'm going to try out. Every now and then I get a sweet idea in my head that just blows my mind, and I can't focus on anything else but that, and rarely do I have anybody to talk to about it because everybody is tired of hearing me talk in my life. So instead, I'm going to talk to this camera, I mean you, and you can contribute with what you think, in any way you can. Yeah. Makes sense. I got a haircut. Yeah, that's what happens when hairs get too long, you cut them. Let's go ahead and start then. Today, I was sitting in personality psychology, legitimately 100% paying attention, thinking about personality and psychology and how the two intersect. Anywho, sitting there paying attention, and the desk I'm sitting at kind of, it goes forward and then has like a slight up, probably like a greater than a 50-degree angle, so it's like pretty hard up, and then a little tiny flat spot. And I was thinking to myself, aside from how personality and psychology mesh together, I was thinking, sitting there like, oh man, you know what would be fun is running around on this if you were shrunk. Yeah, those are the things I think about. So, if you were shrunk, it would be so much fun to... Everybody's had this thought. Come on. Don't think you haven't had this thought. It would be so much fun to run around and play on the things that are normal size to us that would be gigantic, gargantuan, colossal mountains to climb if you were shrunken. Let's say we shrunk you down to Scotty size here. Scotty. Good. Be our model. So... Oh, blurry for a second. If you got shrunk down to Scotty size here, you could run around and play on everything. Oh God, it would be cool. You could. My desk would be a jungle gym. You could play on those and go up there, and you can't see anything I'm talking about. Take the fridge, for example. You could run where Scott usually sits. So it would be crazy fun to just go around and run on things. Let's take, for example, small shelves. Or let's just look at any video game you've ever played where you get shrunken down or you're in a giant's world. You could run around on all of the household normal furnishings, and it's like a big, huge world to you. Here is where my thought process started driving me insane. If you got shrunk down to Scott size here, you're still made up of all the same atoms, which make up all the same molecules, which make up all the same tissues, same organs, same body, same you. So, when you shrink something, assuming shrinking works according to the law of conservation of mass, meaning mass cannot be created or destroyed, you would have the same mass in a smaller package. Right? Because every atom has an atomic weight. And if you shrink it, it's going to have the same atomic weight. I do believe there are arguments against this, such as density and other things like that, but we'll investigate that in a moment. What I want to focus on right now is you would have the same mass, and assuming we've mastered shrinking but not interplanetary travel, you would still be on Earth. So you have the same mass with the same gravitational pull, meaning you have the same weight. So I would be a 6-inch Caleb that still weighed 180 pounds because I need to work out more. Still, beside the point, what I'm saying is all these cool little things that you were hoping you could do, running around on shelves, I don't know, climbing thumbtacks like a ladder. That's what I was thinking, like thumbtacks, ladder. Yeah, you could just, like, same as like in movies when they shoot the arrows into the wall and you climb up them like that, or like in Mystery Men when he was throwing the spoons and or the forks. You can climb up that shit. Okay, well, I was thinking you could climb up the thumbtacks, but no matter how close you are to that wall and trying to, like, spread your weight across these thumbtacks, there's no way a maximum of 4 thumbtacks are going to hold up a 180-pound thing. Or else we would use thumbtacks for building houses. We do. They're large thumbtacks called nails. No, that's beside the point. So what you're not able to do any of these cool things. Shrinking would suck. You wouldn't be able to do anything. It would be stupid. Okay? So let's go ahead and dive further in. Let's talk about things that happen when you're shrunk that shouldn't happen or that don't make sense. We're going to assume that you can live while you're shrunk, because that's the 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 thing we have to assume. It's the assumption of the stuff. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about like when you're shrunken and there's like a bowling ball in your way or something, and there's no way you can move it. It's like, oh, that way's blocked. I can't go that way because there's a giant thing. I mean, relative to you, it is giant. Like, you can't do anything. It's giant. So what we're going to do is talk about why you should be able to move that bowling ball. No fucking problem. So, got the marker out for a reason here. What we're going to look at, I know you're going to be able to see this, and it's not going to matter a lot because I'm just writing it for me. So we've got force equals mass times acceleration, right? So if your force is a product of your mass and your acceleration, you have the same mass. We've already determined that. Your acceleration, on the other hand, you won't be able to cover as much distance at the same in a small amount of time, but you'll still have some acceleration. Sorry, acceleration is the measure of the change in velocity in a certain direction. So it's not just like how fast you're going; it's how fast you're changing your speed. That doesn't matter. Why does it matter? So basically, what I'm saying is, if your mass stays the same, your acceleration goes down a little bit. Your force is only going to go down a little bit. Whereas if your mass went down, your acceleration went down, your force would go down like a lot, right? So what I'm thinking is this bowling ball would be in front of you. Let's say it's a 13-pounder because I bowl with a 13-pounder, unless I'm bowling with a 6-pounder and throwing it overhand, because that's how I bowl. I'm a badass. Anyway, so what we're saying here is that you've got your acceleration slightly decreased because you can't change your speed quite as fast. But your force is only going to go down a little bit. So this 13-pound bowling ball that you and I normally would just be able to like boop, pick up, it would be almost as easy to pick this bowling ball up the same way, even if it was gigantic relative to you, because your mass is the same, your acceleration is slightly smaller, so your force is going to be slightly smaller. It's only going to be a little harder for you to move it. It might be hard to get underneath it and pick it up, because then that's a balancing game that adds a bunch of different factors into it, like where you have to push to, where you have to exert force to keep it balanced, but that's totally different game. Pushing it out of the way, though, just kind of, it would be easy, so easy. It would, like, so if it's 13 pounds, it would probably feel like double that, but that's still 26 pounds. You should still be able to be like, oh, 26 pounds. It's not a lot. That's 2 13-pound bowling balls. That's math. Let's go on to another point. This one's cutting hairs because we did say that technically you can live when you're shrunk, because that's our assumption. So what you've got to think about, I don't need that marker anymore. Sorry, I slammed it down right next to the microphone. Doesn't matter. So what you got to think about here is if you get shrunk, all your molecules are going to shrink as well. And I don't know if you know anything about like the digestive tract, but you know, once you get into your intestines, there are, you know, like gateways for them to extract all the nutrients from. And what I'm saying is that these channels would shrink just like the rest of you. It would still be the same size relative to you, but when you go, take for example Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, gigantic Oreo, I think it was, they were like eating the white shit out of it, which, oh, I mean, the white shit's good, but if you're taking it fistfuls at a time, oh god, that would just be terrible. Anyway, what I'm saying is, you eat this, the molecules are going to be gigantic relative to these little openings in you, so you wouldn't be able to absorb any nutrients. Your stomach acid would probably still break it down, because that's just an acid. It has nothing, well, I mean, it still has a chemical reaction in it, but let's assume it breaks it down. You're going to be pooping out broken down molecules. You won't absorb anything, because none of it'll fit. It'll just be, like, straight through the tube and out the other end. You die of starvation. So not only forget being shrunk and eating, but also forget enlarging our food to solve world hunger. It's not going to work. Sorry, 8-year-old me. Thought you had it all figured out, didn't you? You were wrong. Anyway, the thing that we have to take from that is that molecules won't fit with each other. So here's the killer, literally. You'd only be able to breathe the oxygen in the air immediately surrounding you when the shrink ray was like, shrunk you down. That air, you would still be able to breathe. But all the other oxygen molecules would not fit into your hemoglobin. It would just be like... You know that little toy when you fit the circle block in the circle hole and the square block in the square hole? Exactly like that. Except enlarge the block by like 1,000 times and try and smash it into the same hole. Not gonna work. Here's a representation, right? That, this, it's not, doesn't fit. Doesn't fit. That's what she said. No. Whoa. Back up. Anyway, let's see. There was one more thing. I was talking about this with somebody else, and they mentioned density. They were like, you would be so much more dense. That's a hard one, because we make up the measurement of density in our own brains. It's totally relative to what we think. You know, like a yardstick's a yardstick to us. But that means jack shit to an alien. Like, it doesn't... It's just a stick. Who knows if it measures a yard? So what we'd have to do is we would have to shrink our measurements relative to our own size. And so a yard... So let's say you took a yardstick with you into the shrink ray and it shrunk down with you. There's a sword. That's about a yard, right? So that's our new yard. Which also means an angstrom has changed, and an angstrom is very, very small, and that's what they use to measure the diameter of an atom. So, let's go ahead and look at the atom really quick. So you've got the atom, and then you've got the electron ring, and there's a certain space in between there, and that's that. When you shrink it down, the nucleus is going to get smaller, and the ring is going to get smaller, but relatively, they're still the same distance apart. So the way we measure density is the amount of stuff per whatever unit. We would still have the same amount of stuff per whatever unit if you shrunk the unit relative to us. So you technically wouldn't be any more dense. Relatively. Boosh. Forget shrinking. It's not going to happen. Unless we shrunk everything. But then everything would still be the same, because it's all relative. It's all relative. That's the shittiest argument ever. That's it for me for today. It's all the shit out of my head. I'll probably have another one tomorrow, because this is my life. You've just seen a small, it looks about like 13-minute glimpse into my brain. So... like, comment, subscribe, and tune in next time for when I tell you about why vampires can't get boners. That would be an awkward sex talk. Sorry, son. You can't do that. I know all your human friends are doing it, but, you can't get a boner. And Viagra won't work either. Trust me. Bye. Get scholarly up in this dish. Alright. Focus up. By the way, I have the itchiest fucking nose in the world today. Okay, wait.